All right, here we go on this brisk morning. Showed up, the excavator had already started, which is great. He's stripping off the topsoil. We had to move this building over 5 feet as we were too close to a big power line coming in to service this 100-acre property. So he's stripping the topsoil, piling it off to the side so it can be reused for backfill around the structure. As he reaches the back, we are getting the lasers set up so that we can uh, get a grade on this foundation. Although it doesn't seem like it here, there's about 39-inch of difference from front to back on this 50-foot dig out here for this garage foundation. You can see he's starting to dig out the front wall that's closest to the house, and the grade man's just checking as they go. And they've started with this one string line here. We're going to take a minute to lay out all four corners here for the excavator so that we put these trenches in the correct spot, having enough room for us to work in there. The key to digging in the winter, or to doing a foundation in the winter, is to not disturb the snow. The snow insulates the ground and allows the ground not to freeze. Now this is right after the excavator has finished digging out the trenches. Joe is unraveling the insulated tarps. They are probably about an R1 or R2. I have no idea. Comment down below in the comments section if you know how much insulative value they have. It's not very much, but it's enough to keep most of the frost from penetrating deep into the ground. And we cover over our work at the end of every day in the winter so that we can protect the ground from freezing. Here the guys are struggling to unload the turbo heater unit. I can't remember who this is made by, but we've used this successfully for many years. Some guys call it a Frostfighter, other guys call it just a forced air heater. It runs off of diesel, so that's very readily available. Burns about 100 plus liters in 10 to 24 hours, depending if you run it with a thermostat. We always run it with a thermostat because then you're not just completely wasting all the fuel, but it's a bit more managed from that standpoint. So this is something that is essential to have when running a concrete business in this frozen environment. A lot of people don't realize that there's sub-zero concreting as well as cold climate. It's a good day on site. The porta potties are here, or portaloos. So here we've started a footing. The guys have already got all the form boards in very quickly. Not sure if they started yesterday or today, but they got the whole thing tarped. We had it dug out yesterday by a professional excavator. And what we do, we jam these stakes down in here, and that's what we level it up with. So we have the Stabila laser set up. The guys are setting up the heater so that we can heat the ground. This was just dug yesterday. In the winter, you want to get right on to forming it. This was our string line here set up by the contractor. So we ran two stakes. You see this stake and that stake. And the guys would have squared off of that to get the back corners. We got our forms on site already. The guys are gonna set up the heater so that we can get the Eloquip door unfrozen. One of the joys of working in the winter. And these guys are gonna thaw the footing out for inspection. There's only about a ½ inch of frost in the ground right now, so in the winter you want to make sure you get right onto it. Now what you'll see is we will be leveling off this entire footing. We usually start with the outside. Well, actually, we always start with forming the outside and then building the inside. We use our spreaders to get our spacing, the one that I just about tripped on there, and then we start leveling it out from the outside to the inside. So you can actually see further down the footing there, it's already leveled out, and now we're leveling the inside. I'll take some footage of that. So we start at one end of the board, level it out. We go to the other end of the board, level that out there, and then we check the middle to see if it's high or low. And although sometimes the boards are warped, you could adjust it depending on the stability of the soil. Here we pulled it up a bit too high, and it forced the end stake to lift up out of the ground. Sometimes that's typical. You just go back and rework it, and then check everything as you go. You start at one end of the board, go to the other end of the board, check the middles. Usually everything's pretty close, but you got to check it. This is the Biederman way. This was taught to me by Mad Dog Mador and also Muskrat Mike there. So this is a tried, tested, and proven method of going over it. You may be wondering why it's not a steady tone, is because we have this thing set to a 16th of an inch, and if it's within a 16th of an inch to an eighth of an inch, that's close enough for the girls I go with. So this is where it's at, and this is how we do this, and we're just going to work our way around a little bit and show a little bit of that footage. Here's a slightly better view of the way we do it. We start at one of the spreaders here. That spreader's held on with just a single screw. We use ICF screws, Amvic screws, Nudura screws, whatever you want to call them. They got a 1/4 inch head on them. They're a reusable screw here. You can see Joe tightening that screw back up. It allows for it to hinge, so we start at one end of the board and work our way to the other end of the board, and so on.